today I'm going to be reading Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone chapter 11. Quidditch. As they entered November, the weather turned very cold. The mountains around the school became icy gray, and the lake like chilled steel. Every morning, the ground was covered in frost. Hagrid could be seen up from upstairs windows, defrosting broomsticks from the Quidditch field, bundled up in long moleskin overcoat, rabbit fur gloves, and enormous beaver skin boots. The Quidditch season had begun. On Saturday, Harry would be playing his first match after weeks of training. Gryffindor versus Slytherin. Gryffindor won. They would move up in second place in the house championship. Hardly anyone had seen Harry play because Wood decided that was their secret weapon. Harry should be kept well secret, but the news that he was playing secret had leaked out somehow, and Harry didn't know which was worse. People telling he would be brilliant, or people telling they would be running under him, but underneath him holding a mattress. It was really lucky that Harry had now had Hermione as a friend. He didn't know how he would have gone through all his homework without her. What with all the last-minute Quidditch practice Wood was making them do, she had also let him Quidditch through the ages, which turned out to be a very interesting read. Harry learned that there were 700 ways to committing a Quidditch foul, and that all of them had happened during the World Cup match in 1473. Seekers are usually the smallest and fastest players. In the most serious Quidditch accidents seem to happen to them, although people rarely die playing Quidditch. Referees have been known to vanish and turn up months later in soil or desert. Hermione became a bit more relaxed about breaking rules since Harry and Ron had saved her from the mountain shore. And she was much nicer for it. The day before Harry's first Quidditch match, the three of them were out on a freezy courtyard during break. She had conjured them up a bright blue fire that could be carried around in a jam jar. They were standing around it with their backs to it, getting warm, and Snape crossed the yard. Harry noticed that at once that Snape was limping. Harry, Ron, and Hermione moved closer together to block fire from view. They were sure it wouldn't be allowed. Fortunately, something about the guilty faces caught Snape's eye. Limped over. He hadn't seen the fire, but he seemed to be looking for a reason to tell them off. "What's that you've got there, Potter?" It was Quidditch through the ages, Harry showed him. "Library books are not to be taken outside the school," said Snape. "Give it to me. 5 points from Gryffindor." "He just made that rule up," Harry muttered angrily as Snape limped away. "I wonder what's wrong with his leg." "Don't know, but I hope it's really hurting," said Ron bitterly. The Gryffindor common room was very noisy that evening. Harry, Ron, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat together next to the window. Hermione was checking Harry's and Ron's homework for them. She would never let them copy. How will you learn? But by asking her to read through, they got the right answers anyway. Harry felt restless. He wanted Quidditch with the ages back, to take his mind off his nerves about tomorrow. Why should he be afraid of Snape? Getting up, he told he was going to ask Snape if he could have it back. Better than me, they said together. But Harry had an idea that Snape wouldn't refuse if there was other teachers listening. He made his way down to the staff room and knocked. There was no answer. He knocked again. Nothing. Perhaps Snape had left the book in there. It was worth a try. Pushed the door ajar and peered inside. Horrible scene met his eyes. Snape and Filch were inside. Snape was holding his robes above his knees. One of his legs was bloody and mangled. Filch handing Snape bandages. Blasted thing, Snape was saying. How are you supposed to keep your eyes on all three heads at once? Harry tried to shut the door quietly, but Potter! Snape's face was twisting with fury. As he dropped his robes quickly to hide his leg, Harry gulped. I wonder if I could have my book back. Get out! Out! Harry left before Snape could take any more points from Gryffindor. Did you get it? Ron asked as Harry joined them. What's the matter? In a low whisper, Harry told what he seen. You know what this means? He finished breathlessly. He's trying to get past that three-headed dog. Halloween. That's where he was going when we saw him. He's after whatever it's guarding. And I bet my broomstick he let that troll in to make a diversion. Hermione's eyes were wide. No, he wouldn't, she said. I know he's not very nice, but he wouldn't try to steal something. Dumbledore was keeping it safe. Honestly, Hermione, you think all teachers are saints or something, snapped Ron. I'm with Harry. I wouldn't put anything past Snape. But what's he after? What's the dog guarding? Harry went to bed with his head buzzing with the same questions. Neville was snoring loudly, but Harry couldn't sleep. He tried to empty his mind. He needed sleep. He had his first Quidditch match in a few hours, but the expression on Snape's face when Harry had seen his leg wasn't easy to forget. The next morning dawned, very bright and cold. The great hall was full of delicious smell of fried sausages and cheerful chatter of everyone looking forward to a good Quidditch match. We've got to eat some breakfast. I don't want anything. Just a bit of toast, spilled Hermione. Not hungry. Harry felt terrible. It's an hour time he'll be walking onto the field. Harry, you need your strength, said Seamus Figgin. Seekers are always the ones who get clobbered by the other team. Thanks, Seamus, said Harry, watching Seamus pile ketchup on his sausages. By 11 o'clock, the whole school seemed to be out in the stands around the Quidditch pit. Many students had binoculars, and the seats might be raised high in the air, but it was still difficult to see what was going on sometimes. One Hermione joined Neville, Seamus, and Dean, the West Ham fan, up in the top row. As a surprise for Harry, they painted a large banner on the sheets Scabbers had ruined, and it said Potter for President. Dean was good at drawing, had done a large Gryffindor line underneath. Then Hermione had performed a tricky little charm that made the paint flash different colors. Meanwhile, in the locker room, Harry, the rest of the team were changing the scarlet Quidditch rules. Slytherin would be playing in green. Wood cleared his throat for sentence. Okay, men, he said. And women, said Tricia Legion Johnson. And women, Wood agreed. This is it. The big one, said Fred Weasley. The one we'll all be waiting for, said George. We know all of our speech by heart, Fred told Harry. We were on the team last year. Shut up, you two, said Wood. This is the best team Gryffindor had in years. We're going to win. I know it. He glared at them all as to say, or else. Right, it's time. Good luck, all of you. Harry followed Fred and George out of the locker room and, hoping his knees weren't going to give way, walked onto the field. To loud cheers. Madame Hooch was refereeing. She stood in the middle of the field waiting for the two teams, her broom in her hand. Now I want a fair game, all of you, she said, once they were gathered around. Harry noticed that she seemed to be speaking particularly to the Slytherin captain, Marcus Flint, 5th year. Harry thought Flint looked as if he had some troll blood in him. Out of the corner's eye, he said if he saw the fluttering banner high above, flashing part of a precedent over the cloud. His heart skipped. He felt braver. Mount your brooms, please. Harry clambered onto his Nimbus 2000. Madame Hooch gave a loud blast of a silver whistle. 15 brooms rose up, high into the air. They were off. The quaffle was taken immediately by Angeline Jones. Gryffindor, what an excellent teacher that girl is. Rather attractive too. Jordan! Sorry, Professor. The Weasley twins' friends, Lee Jordan, was doing the commentary for the match. And she's really belting along up there. A neat pass to Alicia Spinnet. A good find of Oliver Woods. Last year only reserve. Back to Johnson. And no. Slytherins have taken the quaffle. Slytherin captain Marcus Flint gains the quaffle and off he goes. Flint flying like an eagle up there. He's going to score. No, stopped by an excellent move by Gryffindor keeper Wood. And the Gryffindors take the quaffle. That's Chaser Katie Bell off Gryffindor there. Nice dive around Flint. Off, up the field, and ouch! That must have hurt. Hit in back of the head by a Bletcher. Quaffle taken by Slytherins. That's Darian Percy speeding off towards the goalpost, but he's blocked by a second speeding off toward the goalpost. But he's blocked by a second bludger sent his way by Fred or George Weasley. Can't tell. Which, nice play by Gryffindor beater anyway. And Johnson back in position of the quaffle. A clear field ahead. And off she goes. She's really flying. Dodges a speeding bludger. The goalposts are ahead. Come on, Alinja. Keeper Blouchy dives. Misses. Gryffindor scores. Score. Gryffindor cheers filled the cold air with howls and moans from the Slytherins. Budge up there. Move along. Hagrid! Ron and Hermione squeezed together to give Hagrid enough space to join them. Been watching from a hut, said Hagrid. patting a large pair of binoculars on his neck, but it's not the same as being in the crowd. No sign of the snitch yet? Nope, said Ron. Harry hasn't had much to do yet. Kept out of trouble, though. That's something. Hagrid, raising his binoculars and peering skyward, expect that was him. Way up above him, Harry was gliding over the game, squinting about with some sign of the snitch. This was part of what Wood's game plan. Keep out of the way until you catch the snitch. Catch the side of the snitch. Wood said, we don't want you attacked before you have to be. When Angelina had scored, Harry had done a couple of loop-the-loops to let out his feelings, and he was back to staring around for the snitch. Once he caught the right sight of flash of gold, but it was just a bludgeon. It was just a reflection from one of the Weasley's wristwatches. Once a bludger decided pelting his way, more like a cannonball than anything, but Harry dodged and Fred Weasley came chasing after it. All right there, Harry! He had time to yell as he beat the bludger furiously toward Marcus Flint. Slytherin in position, Lee Jordan was saying. Chaser Pussy, ducks, 2 bludgers, 2 Weasleys, and a chaser Bell, and speeds toward... Wait a minute, was that the snitch? A murmur ran through the crowd as Anna Percy dropped the coffer, too busy looking over his shoulder at the flash of gold had passed his left ear. Harry saw it in a great rush of excitement. He dived downward after a streak of gold. Slytherin secret Prince Higgs had seen it too. Neck and neck, they hurried toward the snitch. All of the chasers seemed to have gotten they were supposed to be doing as they hung there to watch. Harry was faster than Higgs. He could see a little round ball. Wings fluttering, darting up ahead. He put on extra spurt of speed. Wham! A roar of rage echoed from the Gryffindors below. Marcus Flint had blocked Harry on purpose, and Harry's broom spun off course. Harry holding on for dear life. Foul! Screamed the Gryffindors. Madame Hooch spoke angrily to Flint, and they ordered a free shot at the goalpost for Gryffindor, but all the confusion of the course, the golden snitch had disappeared from sight again. Down in the stands, Dean Thomas was yelling, "Send him off! Ref, red card!" "What are you talking about, Dean?" said Ron. "Red card, said Dean fiercely. "In soccer, you get shown the red card and you're out of the game. But this isn't soccer, Dean," Ron reminded him. Hagrid, however, was on Dean's side. They ought to change the rules. Dean could have knocked Harry out of the air. Lee Jordan was finding it difficult not to take sides. So after that obvious and disgusting bit of cheating, Jordan, growled Professor McGonagall, I mean that after that open and voting foul, Jordan, I'm warning you. Oh wait, Flint nearly kills the Gryffindor secret, which could have happened to anyone, I'm sure. So a penalty to Gryffindor taken. By Spinnet, who puts it away, no trouble, and we continue play. Gryffindor still in possession. It was as Harry dodged another bludger, which went spinning dangerously past his head, that it had happened. His broom gave a sudden didn't frighten Lurch. For a split second he thought he was going to fall. He gripped the broom tightly with both hands and knees. He had never felt anything like that. It happened again, as if the train was to buck him off. But Nimbus 2000 did not suddenly decide to buck their riders off. Harry tried to turn back toward the Governor Goldpost. He would have mind to ask Wood to call time out, and then he realized his broom was completely out of his control. He couldn't turn it. He couldn't direct it at all. It was zigzagging through the air, and every now and then making violent swishing movements that almost unseated him. Lee was still commentary. Slytherin in possession. Flint with the quaffle. Passes Spinnet. Passes Bell. Hit hard in the face by a bludger. Hope it broke his nose. Only joking, Professor. Slytherin goes. Oh no. The Slytherins were cheering. No one seemed to have noticed that Harry's broom was behaving strangely. It was carrying him slowly higher and higher, away from the game, joking and twitching as it went. Don't know what Harry thinks he's doing, Hagrid mumbled. He stared through his binoculars. If I didn't know better, I'd say he lost control of his broom, but he couldn't have. Suddenly people were pointing up at Harry all over the stand. His broom had started to roll over and over, with him only just managing to hold. Then the whole crowd gasped as Harry's broom had given a wild jerk, and Harry's swung off of it. He was now dangling from it, holding one of them. Did something happen to it when Flint blocked him? Seamus whispered. Can't have, Hagrid said, his voice shaking. Can't nothing interference with broomstick except powerful dark magic. No kid could do that to Nimbus 2000. At these words, Hermione seized Hagrid's binoculars, but instead of looking up at Harry, he stared, looking fixedly at the crowd. What are you doing? Moaned Ron, gray-faced. I knew it, Hermione gasped. Snape, look! Ron grabbed the binoculars. Snape was in mid of the stands opposite of them. He had his eyes fixed on Harry and was muttering non-stop under his breath. He's doing something, jinxing the broom, said Hermione. What should we do? Leave it to me. But before Ron could say another word, Hermione had disappeared. Ron turned the binoculars back at Harry. His broom was vibrating so hard it was almost impossible for him to hang on much longer. The whole crowd was on their feet, watching, terrified. The Weasleys flew up to try to pull Harry safely up onto one of their brooms, but it was no good. Every time they got near him, the broom would jump higher still. They dropped lower and circled beneath him, honestly hoping to catch him if he fell. Malkin Flint seized the quaffle and scored 5 times without anyone noticing. Come on, Hermione, Ron muttered desperately. Hermione had fought her way across the stand where Snape stood and was now racing along the road behind him. She didn't even stop to say sorry as she knocked Professor Quirrell headfirst into the road in front of him. Reaching Snape, she crouched down, pulled out her wand, and whispered a few well-chosen words. White blue flames shot out her wand onto the hem of Snape's robe. It took approximately 30 seconds for Snape to realize that it was on fire. A sudden yelp told she had done her job. Scooping the fire off into a little jar in her pocket, she scrambled back along the road. Snape would never know what had happened. It was enough. Up in the air, Harry was suddenly able to clamber back onto his broom. Neville, you can look, Ron said. Neville had been sobbing into Hagrid's jacket for the last 5 minutes. Harry was speeding toward the ground when the crowd saw him, clapped his hands around his mouth as though he was about to be sick. He hit the field on all fours, coughed, and something gold fell into his hands. "I've got the snitch!" he shouted, waving it above his head. The game ended, complete confusion. "He didn't catch it. He nearly swallowed it." Snape was still howling 20 minutes later, but it made no difference. Harry hadn't broken any rules. Lee Jordan was still happily shouting the results. Gryffindor had won by 170 points to 60. Harry heard none of this, though. He was being made a cup of strong tea back in Hagrid's hut with Ron and Hermione. It was Snape. Ron explaining. "Hermione and I saw him. He was cursing your broomstick, muttering. He wouldn't take his eyes off you." "Rubbish," said Hagrid, who hadn't heard a word of what had gone next to him in the stands. "Why would Snape do something like that?" Harry and Ron and Hermione looked at one another, wondering what to tell him. He decided to tell the truth. Found out something about him. He told Hagrid he tried to get past the three-headed dog on Halloween. It bit him. We think he's trying to steal whatever it's guarding. Hagrid dropped the teapot. "You know about Fluffy?" he said. "Fluffy?" "Yeah, he's mine. I bought him off a Greek chappie I met in the pub last year. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard the—" "Yes," said Harry eagerly. "Now don't ask me any more," said Hagrid gruffly. "That's top secret, that is. But Snape's trying to steal it." "Rubbish," said Hagrid again. "Snape's at Hogwarts teaching. He'd do nothing of the sort. So why did he just try to kill Harry?" cried Hermione. Afternoon's events certainly seemed to have changed her mind about Snape. "I know jinx when I see one, Hagrid. I read all about them. You got to keep eye contact, and Snape wasn't blinking at all. I saw him. I'm telling you wrong," said Hagrid hotly. "I don't know what Harry's broom act like that, but Snape wouldn't try to kill a student. Now listen to me, all three of you. You're meddling with things that don't concern you. It's dangerous. You forget that dog, and you forget what's guarding it. That's between Professor Dumbledore and Nicholas Flamel." "Ah," said Harry. "So there's someone called Nicholas Flamel involved, is there?" Hagrid looked furious with himself. If you want to listen to Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone, Chapter 12, you have to wait for the next video. Like and subscribe.